A lot of these preludes that you hear are brought in by Keith, which I really, really, really love. Before we ring the gong to get us sorted, actually, Barry, why don't you ring it so then you can set yourself up, hon? Yeah, there you go. So normally we'll dive right in, but today is a really, really special day where we're going to be highlighting the Unity Music Team and especially the choir. It's really exciting, all that they've done. Last May, I asked if they would come 3 times a month, which is a lot to ask a volunteer crowd. And I said, thank you so much, but we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. And they have stayed through all that time. So today, we're going to show you the this and the that they've been doing. I'm so proud of them. I'm so grateful for the support that they give this church. Because everyone you see over there does a whole lot of other jobs here too, so I am just so grateful. And we're going to start up with Barry Siegel, our blues man, and this is Jamie Lula's There's a Healing Going On, and there sure is.
Namaste.
All right, here's the zone, honey. Here we go. Y'all set?
There's a healing going on. Father God, there's a healing going on. Father God, there's a healing going on. And I say, oh, rock my soul. And I say, oh, rock my soul. There's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. And I say, oh, rock my soul. And I say, is all you see. All our differences and love will set you free. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. And I say, oh, rock my soul. Oh, rock my soul.
Barry Siegel, yeah. So, woohoo! Yeah, give it up. That was so good. Sherry Gaudette is coming to the stand, and she's going to do a 3-song medley. Here we go. So strong, so strong, singing with the voice of God. So strong, singing
steady and unchanging. Your love is a mountain firm beneath my feet. Your love is a mystery, how you gently lift me when I am surrounded. Your love carries me. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. 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 Your love is surprising, I can feel it rising. All the joy that's growing deep inside of me. Every time I see you, all your goodness shines through. I can feel this God song rising up in me. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing.
Keithy, Stevie, and Mike. That is the Unity Music Team, week after week. Thank you so much. Sherry Gaudette. Sherry Gaudette cranking it. You are not sitting down yet. This is Shirley the Presence. No, unless you need to, that's okay.
Let us pray. Surely the presence of the Lord is here, moving in through and as each and every one of us. God, all that is, the epitome of love, of grace, of faith, of strength, is the truth of who we are. And we come together today, as we do every Sunday, perhaps every day, to remember that, to celebrate that, to live from that, to transform into that. And in so doing, be the light of the world. Be that city on the hill. Be that personification of the divine. It is who we are. It is who we are meant to be. And it is who we say yes to being. And so it is, and so let it be. Amen. Amen. You may be seated. Good morning. Welcome to Unity on the River. In the event that we haven't met yet, I'm Reverend Ogun, Senior Minister. Really looking forward to speaking today. I haven't spoken for a while. I had vacation and Cheryl was here last week. If you missed Cheryl Richardson last week, please head over to YouTube and watch the talk. If you were here for Cheryl Richardson last week, please head over to YouTube and watch the talk again. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I hear a talk and I go and watch it again, and then again, and then again, every time, a few more seeds and nuggets that I missed from the time before. That being said, I should probably rewatch my own talks. Should do that. I don't do that. Should do that. But I'm so thrilled you're here to celebrate the Sunday morning with us. As I always like to say, if you want to see the face of the divine, simply turn to the face of another, because we are the personification of the divine. So turn to someone and say, God looks good today. Looking good, God. Looking good.
I want to thank Malik. Malik was on percussion on that first tune. He's coming back again too. So
yeah, thanks, Malik. It's a thanks. All right.
Yeah, he's killing it. It was great.
And a special thank you to my facilitator today, Michelle.
Good morning, Unity on the River. Boy, if you don't get here early, what an amazing opening we have. That was so energizing today. Thank you.
Thank you,
Really
choir.
wonderful.
Every week I have them. I'm so lucky.
So I'd like to welcome you all today, and let's say hello to the streamers. And as Ogun mentioned, you can go back and watch those videos on YouTube, and also you can listen to just the talks on the SoundCloud app. One of our members has been diligently uploading those, so it's just the 20-minute talk, and it's free, so it's awesome. I'd like to welcome anyone who's celebrating with us for the first time today. Would you raise your hand, if you could? Anyone else? So if this is your first visit here, we'd like to have you fill out the card that's in the packet that you're receiving and bring it to the Spiritual Resource Center in the bookstore. And there will be a volunteer there that can answer any questions that you might have. Also, you're getting a flower that will entitle you to 10% off in the bookstore, so make sure you go visit our bookstore. We bless you and thank you so much for coming. We welcome all paths to God, and please know that your presence here with us enriches us today. Unity on the River is a center of celebration, inspiration, transformation, oneness, joy, and spirit-centeredness. Please hold those truths in your heart as we say together our mission and vision statement. Our mission: we are a vibrant spiritual community that celebrates the presence in all and awakens humanity to its divinity. And our vision statement: centered in love, we joyously co-create a world of oneness, peace, and harmony. A few announcements for you today. Annie Breyer will be hosting a reunion meeting after the service for those who have completed the Art and Practice of Living with Nothing and No One Against You. Great class. It will run from 12 to 2. What room is that being in? In the wing room. Okay. And the men's group is meeting next week after the service at noon. There's also an affinity group based on the film Tomorrow, Team Tomorrow. That meeting will begin this week on Tuesday, March 6th at 6:30. And we have a potluck after service, so bring your appetite, stay, and socialize after the service today. And now it is time for us to greet each other in love with either a handshake or a hug. I invite you to say, I see you. I see your divinity. I see your beauty. I see your magnificence. Namaste.
So I'm happy to have Will Lojek come up for the heart opener. I wrote this tune a while ago to talk about our human life and our spirit life. And part of the words are like when we meet people and we remember them, maybe from another time. And maybe that other person doesn't totally remember yet. And I wrote this song for that. But in the end, love alone will light us home. I see a wall of gray where the dark is on. Oh, I need a light, and love's the way I'll find. I see a wall of blue, I know the faith I'll need if I'm loving you. Inside a storm of fear.
If we don't remember, then love alone lights our soul. If we don't remember, then love alone brings us home. On the river of love, I'll reach to you. On the river of sorrow, I'll know your fears. On the river of rain, I'll dry your tears. And on the river of life, I'll have you near. On the river of love.
On the road where I stood so long ago, when I knew your soul, I'm holding on, but faith, sometimes it comes and goes. And can I touch without the need to hold? But can I know love if I let you go?
We don't remember, then love alone lights our soul. If we don't remember, then love alone brings us home. On the river of love, I'll reach to you. On the river of sorrow, I'll know your fears. On the river of rain, I'll dry your tears. And on the river of life, I'll have you near. On the river of love, I'll reach to you. On the river of sorrow, I'll know your fears. On the river of rain, I'll dry your tears. And on the river of life, I'll have you near. On the river of love. 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 Will Lojek! I love this music team. Thank you so much.
It's always great to see members of our team like just blossoming, you know, and Barry especially, how you were just like mastering that sound now. I love it. In case you don't know about that song, there's a healing going on in the song Barry sung. It was a song I introduced to Mora
Revo tune?
a couple years ago. By Revo Tune doesn't mean I wrote it, didn't write it. But it was a recommendation of mine. It was actually one of Jennifer's favorite tunes. And I remember the first, time I give it to you guys and Barry, singing. I forget who sang the first time, but I'm sitting there just in that, that mixed emotion of I really love this song. This band is like really killing it. And Barry's singing it and the emotions that come with it and to notice as I speak about blossoming and growing, here we are 3 years later and I can sit in that song now just in a place of gratitude and awe for how, you and Will and Sherry and so many of you are like feeling that safe space to open up and blossom, and when people ask, why do this job, it's for moments like this. It's for moments like today, to know that all of us have kind of created this space where we can blossom and grow and shine and have fun and grow into ourselves doing it. I had a good taste of that when I was in Barbados as well. As some of you know, I was home for a few weeks, and going home is always an interesting experience. There's some people who are born into a place and live there their whole life. They have kids there, their kids grow up there, and families around. That was not my experience, as most of you know. And when people ask me, why leave Barbados? So, this year, we had a few auction winners who came and spent some time with me, and I played tour guide, and they inevitably always ask, because we're lying on a beach in 82-degree weather and the sun's streaming down, and we got a beverage in hand, and or something. They're like, why would you ever leave this place? Well, the truth of the matter is the rock wasn't big enough for me and my family. How we butt heads with family members. On an island that's like 11 by 13, there's nowhere to go. So I had to leave. I didn't have to leave. I chose to leave. So going back home, even in my, becoming older, arguably wiser, definitely more spiritual, but going back home is still that experience of learning. And part of that learning is coming face to face with the paradoxes, the contradictions that I see there. I'll give you a good example. Like I said, we were there. We were enjoying the sun, the sand, the surf, the food. We went snorkeling one day, and swimming with the sea turtles. And the folks who came with me actually got me to go to a place that I never been there before, and I lived on the place. I was playing tourist as well. It was awesome. It was a great week of discovery. And we all got sick, bad sick. Apparently, not Michelle. Michelle stayed a little out of the fray. Almost all of us got sick. Apparently, and God bless my mother's heart and not remembering to tell me this, there seemed to be like a bout of gastroenteritis going around the island. And we all got, I won't give you the details, I'll spare the details. But needless to say, in the midst of all of this, we're suffering, literally, to various degrees. So, there's that and there's that. There's the being really happy to see my family, especially like my cousin, who I practically grew up with. She's got a little 2-year-old boy. His name is Malik, and he is just a tornado of energy. And but it's always fun, because every time I go home, it's like, who is this guy? Because he's going on 2. He doesn't know who I am, but what's not to love? He falls in love with me all over again, and we have a lot of fun, and it's awesome to see my sister's got 7 grandkids or something, and playing with them and getting reacquainted with them. It's always a lot of fun to connect with them. So I had that experience. In the same hand, I had the experience of, this is the first time I'm going back since my grandparents have passed away. As you know, I went home last year. My grandmother had passed away, the one who created the bakery, that wonderful bread from last week. And it was kind of weird being there without her. You know, her absence was felt. It wasn't overwhelmingly felt, but it was felt. And you know, there were moments I'd walk into her house and like forget she wasn't gonna be there, and almost ask, "Well, where is she?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember." So we got that. You know, we got two of those going on as well. My girlfriend Sarah came with me, and it was fun to introduce her to my family and them to her. And you know, I made this crazy assumption that while she was there, she would be like, you know, my staunch ally in all things. But she took so much to my family that on a day when I was in a heated debate with my mother and daughter, trying to convince me to go visit my father, and I'll tell you about that in a second, and I looked to my girlfriend for support, she says, "Yeah, you should probably go. I'm with them." All right, see, I'm on my own, but I may have told you, at least some of you may remember the story. You know, my dad, he suffered traumatic brain injury like, you know, years ago when he was in college as a result of a robbery, and you know, his personality was just like never the same again. Very angry person for the most part, and in his mind, you know, I am part of. Let's just say that when he sees me, I become more of a trigger of agitation for him. So normally I'm like, well, why would I do that? Why would I go there if after 5 minutes with me, he's all upset? And my mother said, well, you can't come and not see him. I was like, well, actually I could. And then my mother used my same small island logic against me. She goes, this island is so small, you will run into him, and then he will be even more upset because you didn't tell him you were going. So that happened. So, you know, we got that going on too. And then I came, you know, so all of this happened, and I come back home, and I'm like in the swirl of all of that. And then I read this quote in one of Deepak Chopra's book. He didn't write it. This is one of his teachers that he quoted. The measure of enlightenment is how comfortable you feel with your own contradictions. The measure of enlightenment is how comfortable you feel with your own contradictions. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am like I look at my life, and it is full of what I would call these like almost contradictions, these paradoxes, these dichotomies. I think we can all relate to that. And we can even relate to it in this spiritual journey sometimes. We all have our favorite avatars, our favorite teachers, our favorite people, you know, we look up to, whether they're contemporary teachers like Deepak Chopra or you know, Eckhart Tolle or, you know, Don Miguel Ruiz. You know, we read their books, but these are people too. These are people too, and they have interest in other sides of their lives, which we may not get to know about, or more interestingly enough, we do get to know about them sometimes, and then disillusionment set in. And we're like, oh, like I thought this person was like, and then we're all disappointed. And then, you know, sometimes what do? We throw out the baby with the bathwater. And we're like, well, I'm never reading their book again. And I'm never, you know, we have this, but this is the contradiction, the paradox, the dichotomy in life. And I'm not saying, you know, whether you continue looking and reading their works or you throw them out the window, there's no right or wrong here. But I love this. A measure of enlightenment is how comfortable you feel with your own contradictions. In a few weeks, we'll be observing Easter. And when we talk about Easter, of course, you know, the central figure is Jesus. And Jesus was a character who had many contradictions as well. Many of us see him in an uber positive light. Here was this human being who walked the planet, who taught us to love our neighbor beyond we love ourselves, who taught us to turn the other cheek, who for some of us is one of the major avatars and teachers in our life experience. I mean, in unity, he is as well. In case you didn't know, Unity's teachings, its philosophies are basically based on Jesus' teachings, a new way of looking at them. But Jesus himself was a man of contradiction. If you read the Gospels, you will see this paradoxical, side of Jesus. Jesus, the man who would say to us, the example of peace, the turn the other cheek. He's teaching us how to be the best examples of living in peace that we can be. But yet, he's the same person who said, do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. So what do we make of that? This is the man who went to eat dinner with tax collectors, the most hated of the Jews at the time, because they worked for the Romans and they were taking money from people who had next to nothing, and he went to dine with them, and he went to dine with the outcasts, the lepers, and the prostitutes. But this is also the same man who, the week before Easter went into the temple and chased out the money changers. Violently in some cases. My favorite version of him chasing the money changers out of the temple courtyard was in the book of John, when, all the other gospels said, he chased them out. But this one says he braided a whip and then chased them out. And when you think about that, for you to be so incensed and angry that you can't find a weapon at hand, you have to go make one and then chase the people out with it. Like, Prince of Peace, really? So we have this dichotomy as well. The man who said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That the greatest commandment is, love God with your whole heart and soul. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Called people fools. He called them dogs. He called them vipers. He called people pigs. Like, we have this contradiction with Jesus. And when we really take the time to read these Gospels. So in many ways, sometimes it's almost better, if you will, to just simply accept the contradiction. Not just accept it, but take solace from it. Why should I take solace from hearing this dark side of Jesus? I'm going to trademark that as an album copy, by the way. Dark Side of Jesus. That's good.
We might lose our way from it.
Saying it on camera so everyone will hear a trademark. Why should I take solace in that? Because then I can take solace in myself. Because then I can accept my own contradictions. Then I can accept myself for the times I get angry. I can accept myself for the times I say things that, as they're coming out of my mouth, I desperately want to pull them back in because the brain-mouth barrier somehow, somebody left open. Somebody. This is but in the midst of this paradox of who he was, I would even say because of it, we are where we are today with his teachings. The interesting thing about the Jesus story, and I'll touch on it briefly here. The interesting thing about the Jesus story is that historically, we know next to nothing about him. Next to nothing. So how do you know if kind of something is mostly true or factual? You cross-reference, right? So if I say it, is it true because I say it? Well, where else can I go find that information? Where can I verify what was just said? In today's day and age, I hope you're doing a lot of verification about things you hear, especially on the news. Go do your verification. Go do your fact-checking. So when you fact-check about Jesus outside of the Bible, because that's really the main source, There are really, in the course of history, only two other people, historical-wise, who wrote about him roughly about the same time he existed. Only two other people. And they made such the briefest of mentions of him. Okay, one of them was a Roman historian that went by the name of Tacitus. He died about 118 AD. And then there was a Jewish priest whose name was Josephus. He died about 100 AD. And they made these references to Jesus. And pretty much that's the only true historical, outside of the Bible, references. And from those two references, we know about 9 things. Okay, here's what we know. He lived. That was 1. His name was Jesus. That's 2. They called him Christos, which was a Greek. Greek was the written language of the time, which means anointed one, but in some transliterations also means Messiah. He had a brother named James. Okay, James would go on to be the head of the first church, per se, or one of the first churches. He was very persuasive for Jews and the Gentiles and the Greeks, but he never had large numbers of followings until after his death. Okay, Pilate did decide Pilate was the one who ordered his execution. He was executed by crucifixion, and he was executed during the time Pontius Pilate was governor. That's about it. That's all we know for sure. But yet, even with these few facts, and again, in spite of, no, maybe because of the way he lived, the way he spoke, the way he, as a human walking paradox, showed up, they continue to talk about him. They continue to spread the teachings that he said. Here's the other interesting piece. When you think about it, out of these teachings formed all the iterations of Christianity we can think of, all of them. And if you think there are a lot now, there were even more then, shortly after his death. If you think it's fractured now, it was even more fractured then. Like this, not this unity, but 2018, all the different pieces of Christianity that we have floating around out there, this is actually the organized version, believe it or not. This is actually the most, when you look at all the different facets of Christianity there's a lot of overlap. There is a lot of overlap. This is as much overlap as there's ever been if you take the time to look at how all of them had splintered off earlier. It was incredible. I mean, it's almost a miracle that the movement survived because of all this. But why did it survive? I believe it survived because whether they understood it or not at the time, whether they understood it as they were bringing these churches together, whether they understood it when it went from a ragtag group of fishermen to the established religion of Rome, which I believe after that was when it all went downhill, but that's a whole other story. Whether they do it or not, there was something fundamentally core to the teachings that people just couldn't shake. And what I believe that fundamental core teaching is what we honor in unity today, which is the truth of God consciousness within us. I believe that's what all avatars, including Jesus, sought to demonstrate for us. Maybe they didn't have the right words at the time. Like all of us, they had some off days. But either way, that core message resonated so much at the time that no one was willing to let go of it. Even if stories were created around it. Factual stories, mythical stories, no matter what. And you all, even today, you guys know what it means to have a mythical story created around you, right? We call them rumors, right? We've all maybe at some time or the other been the subject of a rumor, where one thing happened and then, 2 months later, like the story has just transformed itself so much, You're like you're almost impressed. In some cases, you're like, oh, I wish it had happened that way. That's like pretty cool. But I believe this would have happened around Jesus too. I mean, the first written references to Jesus were about 30, 40 years after his death by the Apostle Paul, who never met him. And then you had letters by the authors of the Gospels, who, by the way, were not named Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Just want to throw it out there. But so we had those as well. And then the word continued to spread. Yes, it became fractured. People were saying, this is the true church of the teachings. No, we've got that. But it survived because of, I believe, that core intention, that core demonstration that in the midst of his humanness, Jesus came to demonstrate, which is at the very core of us, the true essence of us. We are divine. And just like Jesus had his off days, we're going to have our off days. How many of you had an off day this week? You can be honest. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. We're going to have our off days. The key to remember is when we have our off days again, first be gentle with ourselves. Remember that. You know, I love watching golf on TV. Do you know why? I love watching golf on TV because I am a sucky golf player. Like, I'm really bad. I mean, like the first year or two, what's his name? Steve. Some of you know Steve. I forget his last name. Smith, the dentist, right? Would auction off, round of golf with me, Reverend Ogun, and 2 other people. After the second year, he stopped doing it. Now, I have absolutely no proof as to why, but I suspect after playing with me twice, he was like, yeah. What's that? The video on the beach with me, right. And I shouldn't have been on a beach, but that's where the ball ended up. Case in point. Thank you for helping me relive that moment. But I love watching professional golfers on TV, people who've won, the Masters and all these Opens, who are making millions of dollars, because every once in a while, they too will be on a beach in a sand trap. They too will be in the rough, hacking away at the bushes to try and get the ball out. They too will be careening the ball into the audience. And then beyond understanding on my part, when they go to hit the ball, everyone's standing 8 inches from them as they're swinging a club. I never got that. But this is why I love to watch golf. It actually gives me hope. Let me rephrase that. What it does is when I see these folks who have honed their skill, who are still making errors, and after these errors, saying, this is not over, I'm still playing. To come back from making massive errors to still win a championship at the end, that inspires me to know that on this journey I call life, that on this journey of being a parent, of being a minister, on this journey, there are times I'm going to end up in the rough, in the sand trap, in the water, but the game's not over. And it's no indication of my skill, of my consciousness, or the truth of who I am as a divine being. It's an indication that I am also a human being. And because of my humanity, just with Jesus because of his humanity. I think it makes it, when we live from our divine being, that much more powerful. Over the next few weeks leading up to Easter, and we're taking a look at Jesus' story, not just from the Gospels in the Bible, but from other sources too, the Gnostic Gospels, other books that contain stories and teachings of Jesus that didn't make it into the main Bible. And we can take a comprehensive look at not just the wisdom he imparted, but the moments he was in the rough as well. Because we can learn so much from the good each of us do. We can also learn so much from when we stumble, stand back up, and say, I'm not done yet. That was a moment. But this is me, a being that is divine. And I can always choose again. I can always choose again. The title of this series is called The Light of the World, because this is who we are. This is who we are. And in the midst of all that would appear other to that, we got to remember, we are the light of the world, just as Jesus was. In fact, he told us, you are the light of the world. You are the city on the hill. But if your light is under a bushel, no one's going to see it. And often, I remember watching cartoons where one character is trying to trap another, so they had the box with the stick, and the thing would run under with some bait, and you pull the stick. And you remember what I'm talking about? Yeah. Often that's us. We find ourselves, and we're there in the boxes, and we're like, where's my light? Where's my light? Where's my light? Your light hasn't gone anywhere, folks. Your light hasn't gone anywhere. And that box around you, that is nothing. That is nothing. So I hope you keep up with talks this week, these few weeks coming up leading to Easter, and really, really recapturing that truth of your lightness. And to remember to always keep it shining no matter what. Because it's not in spite of, but because of your humanity that you can shine this light and illuminate us all. Let's go to meditation. So if you're comfortable, I invite you to plant both feet on the floor, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, settle in. Breathe a little deeper. Connect with the heart. Taking these words of the Gnostic teacher Menonimus. He said, abandon the search for God and the creation and other matters of a similar sort. Look for God by taking yourself as the starting point. Look for God by taking yourself as the starting point. Learn who it is within you who makes everything his own and says, my God, my mind, my thought, my soul, my body. Learn the sources of your sorrow, your joy, your love, your hate. Because if you carefully investigate these matters, you will find God in yourself. You will find God in yourself. So find yourself. Uncover who you are. Accept and find solace in your contradictions, your paradoxes. This is your path to enlightenment. To say, I accept myself fully as I am. Only then will I see God. Let's sit with this for a few moments in the silence. I accept myself fully so that I may see God. We hold this intention for ourselves and for all these names in the prayer box. We hold that for all these individuals, in spite of their circumstances, because of their circumstances, in the midst of their circumstances, they remember that they too are the fullness of God. And that to find the solace of the divine, they simply turn within. And should you hold that intention for anyone else, I invite you to say their names out loud now. In so doing, we also see them as our avatars, our teachers. We see them in our lives to remind us that we too are the embodiment of the divine. To ask ourselves what is ours to do, to be that for them. And so it is. So we let it be. Amen.
Invite Sherry, Lisa, Barry, and Pat to be our harmony team. On my tune, we are standing on holy ground. The chord changes are courtesy of Alex Valenti, who is here with us in spirit. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds.
We're standing. We're standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds. We're standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds. We're standing on holy We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds. We're standing on holy ground.
Thank you, Reverend Ogun, for that beautiful talk today, and also to our music team for the beautiful music. I'd like to take a moment to recognize our prayer chaplains, if you could stand. These wonderful people can meet with you after the service to hold you in prayer. If you have a gratitude prayer or a request, or simply wanting to sit in silence, they will do that with you. And your prayer requests and intentions are held in the strictest of confidence. Also, if you have need, we have a home and hospital prayer chaplain program. Is anyone here from that team? Catherine? And also Susan. So we'd like to let you know that if you have that need, they are available to visit with you. Remember, you can also submit a prayer request in the box in the back, and that will be held by our prayer team here at Unity, and then it is sent off to Unity Village. And you can also, we have a dedicated phone line where you can call in with prayer requests. Now it's time to affirm our tithes and offerings. So if you can take them in your hand, and let's breathe our energy into our gifts as we say our affirmation. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people, oh, sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Brian Dozer.
Let's go to a place of gratitude in our hearts for these gifts. So whether we gave here today, whether we gave online, whether we set up a recurring donation, all the ways, or for those who've also mailed in tithes this week, for all the ways we are blessed from the abundant universe through the channels that are you, we give thanks. Knowing that as we all invest in our spiritual community, we may thrive and continue to provide this container for our growth, for our transformation, for a place to come to love and be loved. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Thank you. Speaking of giving online, in most of your bulletins, you should see this card. I'll mention it briefly today and probably won't say anything more about it for a while. But as I've said before, I do want to encourage you to, if you can, go online to set up an automatic reoccurring gift for a few reasons. One, as I always share, this community, what we do, who we are, is because of you. And we mean that in all the ways, through your physical presence and through your donations. We do not receive donations from any Unity headquarters. We don't get them from anywhere else. Your monetary investment in this spiritual community is the monetary investment that we receive. As always, following spiritual practices and principles, we tithe on what we take into all sorts of organizations in the community. If you want to know what those are, call the office. We'll provide a list. I know somewhere in either hospitality or the bookstore, we started putting up the thank you letters that these organizations send us when we tithe back. And the truth of the matter is that when we're not physically here in the on Sunday service, some of us we don't receive your gifts from you sometimes, and that affects anyone who's run a business or is an employee or receives a paycheck. When we have that ebb and flow, it's hard to plan. It's hard to think about events, like some of the great events we've had in the past. So we do ask you to consider doing that simply as a way of investing in what you come here for. That's really what it is. You are investing in what you come here for. From the music, to the classes, to the great guest speakers and big events we have. So please consider that. And if you're like me, who has set up a reoccurring online gift, you're like, well, I like to put something in the basket when it comes around on Sunday, in the bag. That's literally what you can do with this too. Like, let this symbolically represent your tithe that you gave online. When we do the bless and hold it, give in the basket, and drop it in the basket as well. So something to consider. Also, a few announcements. The Absolute Abundance class starts tomorrow night. Again, remember what I talked today about being in spite of, or really because of our humanity, how we can truly still live the fullness of our divineness. That Absolute Abundance class is like the best class I've ever taught and taken to demonstrate that. It's a 10-week class. The first 2 weeks are open if you want to drop in, try it out. The booklets are in the folders for the class are in the bookstore now. There's a $45 materials fee. That money doesn't come to us. This is what we pay to get the booklets. So there's a $45 materials fee, and you can sign up today still. You can drop in tomorrow. The class is starting tomorrow night. Also, please remember, mark your calendars if you haven't yet. Ken Clark Trio will be back with us for the spring concert on March 23rd, 7:30 p.m. Please come out. A lot of you folks remember who he was, and if you are new and don't know who Ken Clark is, trust me, you'll want to find out. So come to the concert. And finally, last but not least, in our ongoing efforts to improve our communication from us, the leadership, the board, minister, to you, in case you haven't noticed, we've started a text service, a text-in service, so you can receive reminders, updates, alerts, invitations on your phones. Text UOTR to 313131. In fact, do it now. Pull out your phone, do it now. I'm not kidding. Do it now. 313131 is the number, and you text the words UOTR. You can opt out at any time. We will not inundate you with 3-4 texts a day. We will not do that. You might get 1 or 2 a week if you're lucky. We just want to make sure people stay informed, okay? So I don't see a lot of phones coming out, which either tells me, thank you, that a lot of you have already, which is good. UOTR, 313131, and you'll receive a message to opt in. That's it. I think Michelle's got a couple more thank yous. She looks startled. You don't you? Okay, I was just checking. I was like, who's on and off script this time? Is it me? It could have been me.
Yes, lots of thank yous to all the people that helped to make this service happen and who work throughout the week to help our center keep going. And particularly this week, we'd like to thank Jin Kai for helping out in hospitality, and Jim and Mike for doing some needed repair work to some of our units through Spirit on the River. The teams this week, we're recognizing our youth and family ministry, our music ministry, and the home and hospitality team, and the men's group, so covering a lot of ground there today. Also, we'd like to acknowledge our board members, any of them who are here, if you could rise. These and the board is always available to answer questions if you have any after the service. And also thank you to those who make the Wednesday night service happen. This is a quieter service on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. This week it will be led by Christina Mariah Lucia. Oh, by you. Okay. Okay. Wrong name on here. Okay. Oh, Christina's next week. All right. Next week. All right, great. In action. All right, now we have a great song, You Shine.
Malik's coming on back on the congas, and Mr. Brian Dozer on You Shine, and we're going to send a shout out to Meggie, who's over in Thailand doing her healing journey, but she would be up here today too. So thanks so much to Meg Rain, who's around the world, bringing her peaceful, awesome
A huge
self.
thank you to Alita Mara.
Thank you so much. And my boys, Keith Pickford, Steve Chigueras, Mike Gruen, and so many on the choir. Thank you so much.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I love that song. This isn't the song though. Here we go. It's been stuck in my head since the talk. Why should I fear man when you made the heavens? Why should I be afraid when you put the stars in place? Why should I lose heart when I know how great you are? Why should I give up when your plans are full of love? But in this world we will have trouble, but you have overcome the world, and you shine brighter than the brightest star. Your love is purer than the purest heart. You shine, filling us with courage and strength to follow you. Oh, why should I fear man when you made the heavens? Why should I be afraid when you put the stars in place? Why should I lose heart when I know how great you are? Why should I give up when your plans are full of love? And you shine brighter than the brightest star. Your love is purer than the purest heart. You shine, filling us with courage and strength to follow you.
Barry, Lisa, Brad, Will. Yes.
Our children will not be coming in today. Please remember we have potluck after service. Special thank you to Frank and Jenny who run hospitality. When you see them out there, please give them a special thank you. Tell them I said that. Also, right after we sing the peace song and do the prayer of protection, the board and I want to talk with you briefly. We've had to ask a member of our congregation to no longer be a member of our congregation. It's not something we do lightly, easily. It was a tough choice we came to, but one that had to be made. If you want to find out about that fact, we want to tell you about that. Let's do it right after the peace song. I'm doing it after church. You know, someone who's here for the first time, they're like, I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to skip over that, which is okay. So we'll do it right afterwards if you want to find out more information. So that being said, let's do the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. All is well, and we are richly blessed.